The story you are about to hear is a mysterious tale, shared by someone who lived through it and even made its way into local news. To protect the identity of the person telling the story, the voiceover has been done using AI. This is a completely real, lived experience. On a dark night, amidst the silence, an eerie bell rings in the distance. By the edge of a reservoir, shadows dance around a flickering fire. Tonight, I invite you to witness how an ordinary camping trip among friends turned into an unforgettable tale of terror. This story recounts the night when peace gave way to fear. Are you ready? Because tonight, you might want to say goodbye to peaceful dreams.
I need to tell you something. Something I haven't been able to forget. It happened last year on the night between the first and second day of Eid. My friends and I decided to go camping at a nearby dam. There's one not too far from where I live in California. Usually it's the three of us who go fishing or camping together. It's never anything fancy, just a quick trip, out and back the same day. But that night, it was different. That day, two of us were sitting around, bored, trying to figure out what to do. Why not camp at the dam, we thought. We called our third friend, but he was working late at a slaughterhouse. He didn't get off until around 2 or 3 p.m. Once he arrived, we packed up and left. Now here's where it gets strange. There's a dirt road that leads to the dam, a route we've taken at least 20 times. But that night we couldn't find it. We drove in circles, turning left and right, as if we'd never been there before. Finally, after what felt like hours, we found the way and reached the dam. But something felt off. It was completely deserted. Not a single car, not a trace of anyone having been there. It was eerie. Still, we set up our campfire and sat around it. One of my friends, the one who had just finished work, said he was exhausted. He told us to wake him at sunrise and went to sleep in the car, which was parked about 10 or 15 meters away. So it was just me and Joseph. We stayed by the fire, chatting and planning to fish in the morning. At some point, I decided to lie down near the fire. I don't know how much time passed, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. But that's when it started. A bell, a loud echoing bell like a church bell, rang through the air. I jumped up. "Joseph," I said, "are there sheep around here? Is that what we're hearing?" He shook his head. "Look over there," he said, pointing into the distance. I turned to where he was pointing and saw them. 2 fires burning across the dam. We were both stunned. When we arrived, there had been no one, no lights, no fires. But now, 2 flames burned brightly, flickering in rhythm with the bell. The sound was almost hypnotic. Every time the bell rang, one fire would blaze up and the other would fade. At first, we tried to rationalize it. Must be other campers, we told ourselves, even though deep down, we knew better. Then the bell stopped and one fire went out completely. Around the remaining flame, we saw figures, 3 of them. They were moving, circling the fire in some kind of ritual. We sat frozen, watching. There was no way for them to reach us unless they crossed the water or came down the road we had driven on. And then there were 6. Out of nowhere, 3 more figures appeared. They joined the circle, moving in the same eerie, synchronized way. It was like a trance. We couldn't look away. Suddenly, 2 of them were standing just 50 meters away from us. I swear to you, they didn't walk, they didn't run, they were just There. My heart felt like it would burst out of my chest. I grabbed Joseph's arm. "Do you see that?" He nodded, his eyes wide with fear. At that moment, I snapped out of it and bolted for the car. I pounded on the window, screaming for our friend to wake up. The doors were locked and he was fast asleep. I hit the glass so hard I thought it would break. Finally, he stirred, confused and groggy. "Look!" I yelled, pointing toward the figures. "Do you see them?" He stared, his face turning pale. "What's Joseph doing?" he asked. I turned and saw Joseph still sitting by the fire, completely entranced, staring at the figures as if in a spell. We ran back to him, shaking him until he snapped out of it. All three of us stood there trembling, watching these things. They were tall, at least 8 feet, and their shapes were barely human. No hair, no distinguishable features. You couldn't describe them like a normal person. It was like looking at shadows, but they were real. One of them suddenly dropped to the ground, as if bowing, but not to the fire, to another figure. Then came the scream. I've never heard anything like it. It was a sound that didn't belong in this world, like someone being torn apart, pure agony. We couldn't move. We couldn't think. Even praying didn't cross our minds. We were paralyzed by fear. And then, as suddenly as they had appeared, they were gone. The figures faded into the darkness, leaving us in stunned silence. Without a word, we ran to the car, leaving everything behind. Fishing gear, food, everything. We drove to a nearby village and stayed there until morning, too afraid to go back. After that night, one of my friends had recurring nightmares for 5 days straight. He dreamed of pulling a nail-pierced baby's head out of the lake. I didn't dream of anything, but I'll never forget what we saw. I still don't know what they were or why they appeared, but I know this: some mysteries are better left unexplored.